Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Farron Khalid here. Today I'm going to be talking about systems thinking, and it's not an idea I originally came up with, but it's an idea which I looked into in the last year. And systems thinking is really interesting because basically the idea and the principle behind it is that you have to look, well, you don't have to, but you can look at things from a systematic perspective and understand how the system works. And when you have that understanding, you can then focus on where problems need to be fixed and how problems arise. And systems thinking, to give an example, is basically imagine a watch. You got a Rolex, and this Rolex is made out of diamond encrusted, it has gold brims, it has a timeless design put on the front, which was made by a design team. So basically, how that Rolex was made is essentially part of a system. So you have the people who come up with the concept, you have marketing, you have advertising who focus on gauging the consumer insight and then focus on how you can sell it. You have production, and production's done all around the world. So you get raw materials from different countries, you work with different contractors, and you also come up with a design concept for it, which originally happens with the advertising and marketing team, if you want. And then you come up with scamps for it, drawings, and then with that knowledge, you work in the system which you have to actually produce it. So, and you try to do that in the way which is most cost effective and will increase profit and margins over time. And then you focus on how to sell it, how to brand yourself, and it's kind of like the whole system about how one Rolex is made and how it's sold to you has a whole context to it, to how it was made. And I feel like when you can look at things from like this kind of systematic perspective and see how it affects pretty much everything around you, and then be willing to like focus on having like foundational values to how you approach changing it. So it's not like just changing it because like I'm Donald Trump and I want to take over the world. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like you focus on the good and then focus on like how these like systems work, and then you can also apply it to like your personal life, I think, like, and just know like as well like the egoic dynamic within these systems and how people within these systems operate with each other, because every system essentially has got an ego. You know, it's got a way it's been operating, it's got a way they do things, it's how we run, and like that's great. It allows for order, it allows for stable growth, but then over time I feel like there needs to be innovation and pivoting. And I think when you can see things as a system, you can figure out eventually how to like change the system to a certain extent. And like you don't have to be this crazy girl or guy who goes around changing systems around the world, but I just think having like a consciousness and understanding of it, I think helps when you tackle your work and focus on doing things, because then you could do things which are of most value to the system and you could progress through it quickly and hopefully change it or do something you want, or just operate better in terms of work life. What do you think?
Okay, so what actual function does it serve to kind of be aware of this? Like how does this kind of serve you and serve the way that you sort of view the world? Like what does it sort of add to it?
I feel like when you understand it, you can then analyze like let's say I'm working in a agency, an advertising agency, right? Or let's say I'm working in anything, working in healthcare. You can see how you can analyze how, and you can do research on the system you're in, how it actually works, and how it relies on other parts and how it relies on the people. And I think then when you go and try provide value, you can provide systematic value. So you're focusing on how to improve the system as well as doing your individual job, and I think that gives you a lot more value in situations rather than just doing your job and being a specialist. Because I think if you could provide value to systems, you'll be paid quite a lot, or you'll get quite a lot, or you'll advance pretty quickly, because essentially I think the people highest up care about how the system's going to operate rather than the minutiae of how good you are at your job.
So are you talking about essentially complying with the rules and regulations of the system? Because I think essentially if you comply with the rules and regulations of the system, it can be maybe at times difficult to change it because you're working within a certain confines that someone else has kind of set up, and therefore that makes it very difficult for you to then step out and do something different within that system. So doesn't thinking in this way essentially trap you?
I know what you mean, and that's a very valid point. Yes and no. Like, I think that by being in a system and understanding your place in a system, the people who are high up in that system who can make effective change and can come up with new strategies and policies and ways of doing things you can easily get access to them if you can improve the current system. And then if you have a vision and an idea for how you can change it, keep that in your mind. And then when you get to a position where you can influence things, then you can actually suggest change. You can't really make people do change. You come up with all these brilliant theories, but if no one wants to do it, well, tough shit. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, I think as well it helps if you want to do your own thing. Because if you want to like have a startup, or you want to like have a business, or run a fitness class, for example, at least like having this understanding about how other systems work and how competition essentially works. Although I don't like to think of it from competitive perspective, I just think it helps with like abstract overall creative in terms of like system design. I just think it's interesting. I mean, like, for me personally, this is an idea that I did not come up with. I've read this idea in a book briefly.
Who came up with the idea initially?
Well, the first person actually looked at it was a guy, it's a YouTuber called actualize.org. His name's Leo Gura. He's a really interesting guy, really interesting perspectives, and I don't like my sources of information. I do like them to be quite reliable, and out of all the YouTubers, he is like someone I highly recommend checking out, actualize.org. There's also a book on it called Systems Thinking. I haven't actually read it, and it's something I'm going to read, because this is just like a general idea. Some of the stuff I may say may be a bit not entirely accurate, but I know this is like the abstract concept of it, and it's something I'm going to look into in more detail. But I just think systems thinking is interesting, and I feel like there's a lot you can do with it, and like I just think it's good for just consciousness in general and just being more aware. I mean,
so I'm still kind of foggy on it. Is it like you understand the system so that therefore you can make effective change in it, or is it you understand the system and therefore you can then work well and you then kind of become part of the system? Like what is it? Like is it both?
I mean, like, basically what I think systems thinking is, and what I've kind of gauged from what people say, is like, and it's like my general contemplation and my general thinking, it's like the system is there, and it like the means of production for making things and putting stuff out into the marketplace, and it could be applied in so many different ways, whether that's like even in like a relationship, I guess, weirdly, but like I don't like think of relationships.
Well, how could you? Okay, so could you? So you did quite a complicated kind of description of it earlier, from manufacturing a Rolex watch. What's the simplest way you can apply it and kind of put it into a context? Could you make it like a really simple analogy?
Okay. So you study. You got to get good grades.
Sure.
To get to a certain institution.
Sure.
To get a job in a company which you value. And you've looked at the industry and the company and where it could be different. But then you also look at what's working and go in on that and provide value in that sense. But then when you can create enough value in that sense, you can then go on to make change, because you can get around the people who can make change. I think that's like a very materialistic career perspective of it. But then I guess as well, if you want to like, you look at relationships. So I got a girlfriend. Her dad doesn't like me. I figure out, okay, what does her dad like? How can I kind of get him to kind of like see I'm trying to be a good person? Do you know what I mean? I'm a good person for your girlfriend, right? Or for your daughter. And then going about in a way which basically entices to him, and then you can have a better relationship with your girlfriend without him being in the way. So it's kind of like strategy.
Okay,
it's like
so
analysing the factors in play.
Let me get this straight. So it's about finding like a gap or a need that is kind of not being met, and then filling that.
Yeah. Fundamentally, yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
So
You're meeting needs and wants. And
right.
You can create needs and wants as well, really, I think.
Right.
In a positive, like, yeah, you can.
Okay.
And it's like, just, I think if you have like a general awareness for how like the industry you operate in works, or this, like, yeah, even the culture, I guess, or things, I think it just allows you to be better suited in it without compromising your values and who you are. I think going into it with a value system and then working around it, I just think it's an interesting idea, bit of an insight. It's not so. It's something which I'm trying to like think about more consciously, and like if you want to think about it as well, I'm just sharing an idea. You don't have to take it on. It's not solid. I'd say look into it more, but like interesting idea of the day, I guess maybe systems thinking. So yeah, I'll probably wrap it up there. I mean, do you have any other questions?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, like when I make these podcasts as well, before we end this, it's like I don't want to be like seen as some like mentor or some like really like the guy who's got it all figured out, because I really haven't, and like I'm just trying to like
I don't think so, but I also think that maybe in future, before you like kind of talk about a topic, make sure you've like thoroughly researched it so that you can make some like clear points, and then
right, yeah,
just have it more structured, because
because it's a bit free flowing, a bit abstract. It's kind of hard to get. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think like having like case studies, facts, really bringing in like a proper argument, a proper viewpoint, I think allows just for a better listening.
And balance. Make sure there's balance.
What do you mean by that?
So make sure that you critique it well in a way that's not just completely one-sided.
Right, cool. Yeah, so I could look at like the different perspectives and what people think. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. So yeah, I guess that's like lessons for my next kind of like idea, which is great you're saying that. And like I'm glad someone might be listening to this and being like, oh right, he's gonna try and make some change as well. If you didn't really like it, because like you can disagree with me. Like I want people to jump in the comment section and give me their viewpoint as well, because I think that way we can come up with a better like idea for what it can actually be, and like getting your opinion as well. So yeah, but I'm glad you said that. That was cool.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to go in the toilet and cry now. I'm checking. Is it ending? All right, sweet. So, guys, follow us on Collective Connect at Instagram. Also, add us on Facebook, or follow us, however that works. You can also follow me at Farron Khalid on Instagram, where I'll be, and you guys can message me, collaborate on projects, figure out new ways to do things, and actually make stuff. And thank you, Emil, again, for being an awesome interviewer.
No problem.
You're really good at that, bro. I mean, I'm being serious.
Cheers.
Yeah, you're really good at this. And then, I'll just wrap it up there. So thank you guys for listening. Tell me what you think down below in the comments. Thanks.